Welcome to HD Coins World. Today, we're diving into the 6 rarest and most valuable Lincoln pennies, coins that have shocked collectors and sold for unbelievable amounts. Some of these pennies are hiding in plain sight, and if you know what to look for, you might just have a small fortune in your collection. From rare mint errors to special varieties worth thousands, we'll uncover what makes these Lincoln pennies so valuable and how to spot them. Make sure you watch until the end because you won't believe how much some of these coins have sold for. Now, let's get started. Number 1. The 1967 Lincoln penny. Just a regular old cent, right? Well, what if I told you that tucked away in pocket change or old jars, there could be one worth more than you ever imagined? Some of these seemingly ordinary pennies have sold for unbelievable amounts, and today, we're diving into what makes them so valuable, how to spot one, and the rare errors that turn them into true treasures. Now, before we jump in, here's a question for you. Have you ever found an unusual penny while searching through change? Maybe something that looked different, off-center, or even had a strange mark. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your finds. The 1967 Lincoln penny might not seem special at first glance, but certain key features set rare ones apart from the rest. Unlike many other years, there were no mint marks on any U.S. penny struck in 1967, meaning whether it was made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, they all look the same. However, that doesn't mean all 1967 pennies are equal. Far from it. What makes a handful of these worth a fortune comes down to condition, rare errors, and striking anomalies that occurred at the U.S. Mint. So, why is the 1967 penny valuable? First, its scarcity in ultra-high grades is a big factor. The U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies that year, but most circulated heavily, making pristine, well-preserved examples extremely rare. A flawless or nearly flawless coin can fetch an incredible price at auction. But that's not all. Some of these pennies have errors so unique that they command massive premiums from collectors eager to own a piece of numismatic history. Now, let's talk about how to spot one of these ultra-rare pennies. When searching, condition is key. If you find a 1967 penny that still has a strong shine, sharp details, and little to no visible wear, you might have something valuable. But even if your penny isn't in perfect condition, don't overlook it just yet. Errors and varieties can make even circulated coins worth serious money. Speaking of errors, what should you be looking for? Some of the rarest and most valuable 1967 pennies have dramatic mistakes, like doubled dia verse, where the lettering or Lincoln's portrait appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the minting process. Another highly sought-after error is the off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly centered during minting. There are also rare clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin appears cut or missing due to a flaw in the metal blank before striking. And let's not forget the broad strike errors. These occur when a coin is struck without the collar, causing it to spread out and appear wider than normal. Each of these mistakes can significantly boost the value of a 1967 penny, especially when found in combination. Now, for the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much can one of these rare 1967 pennies be worth? Depending on its condition and error type, collectors have paid between $6,260 and $68,000, with some fetching even more at auction. Imagine that, turning a simple penny into a life-changing find. So, the next time you come across an old penny, take a closer look. It just might be one of these hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. And don't forget, drop a comment if you've ever found an unusual or rare penny in your change. Who knows? Maybe you're sitting on a small fortune without even realizing it. Number 2. The 1971 Lincoln penny might seem like just another coin, but what if I told you this small piece of copper could be worth thousands of dollars? That's right, a penny from 1971, one of the most overlooked coins in circulation, could be hiding in your pocket change or old collections. Today, we're diving into what makes the 1971 penny so valuable, how to spot a rare one, and the errors that can turn it into a collector's dream. But before we get started, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever found an unusual penny that made you think it might be worth something? Maybe a penny that looked off or had a strange feature? Share your finds in the comments below. I always enjoy hearing about people's hidden treasures. So, what makes the 1971 D penny stand out from the millions that were produced that year? The key feature lies in the mint mark itself. The D on the 1971 D penny indicates that it was struck at the Denver Mint, and while that might not sound significant at first, it's the condition and rare errors that make these pennies so valuable. The 1971 D penny was widely circulated, which means most of the coins you'll come across will be in average condition. However, there are some that are in outstanding shape and others with rare minting mistakes that make them highly sought after by collectors. Now, why is the 1971 D penny so valuable? The answer lies in a combination of factors. First, there's the rarity of well-preserved coins. As with any rare coin, condition is key. The higher the grade, the more valuable the penny becomes. A coin with little to no wear, clear details, and a bright, unblemished appearance will always attract more attention. But there's more than just condition. Some 1971 D pennies have rare errors that make them incredibly valuable, turning a simple penny into a rare collectible worth thousands of dollars. So, how do you spot a valuable 1971 D penny? First, examine the condition. If the penny is in great shape, with sharp details and no signs of excessive wear, you might have something special. Look closely at the Lincoln portrait, the date, and the surrounding inscriptions. Even slight imperfections in these areas can decrease a coin's value, so be sure to check for any signs of fading or damage. However, the real value comes from the rare errors that can occur during the minting process. One of the most sought-after errors in 1971 D pennies is the double die error. This happens when the die used to strike the coin has multiple impressions, causing the design, specifically the date or letters on the coin, to appear doubled. The 1971 D double die penny is one of the most prized finds for collectors, and if you come across one, you could be sitting on a small fortune. Another error to look for is the off-center strike. These occur when the penny is not aligned properly on the coin press, resulting in part of the design being cut off or missing. Finally, there's the possibility of a die crack or break, which happens when the die used to strike the coin begins to crack or chip. These imperfections can make the coin even more unique and desirable to collectors. Now, let's talk about the value. A 1971 D penny in excellent condition can easily be worth between $12,200 and $62,000, or even more, depending on the rarity and type of error. Imagine finding a penny that could be worth more than the price of a car, or even a house. That's the kind of value we're talking about here. So, next time you're sifting through change or checking out old pennies, keep an eye out for the 1971 D. It may just be the hidden gem you've been searching for. And remember, don't forget to let me know in the comments if you've ever stumbled across an unusual penny or coin that turned out to be valuable. Your next treasure could be just around the corner. Number 3. The 1966 Lincoln penny. Just another old cent, right? What if I told you that some of these coins are worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars? Hidden among everyday pocket change, rare 1966 pennies with special features or mint errors have turned up, shocking collectors with their incredible value. Today, we're breaking down what makes this coin so special, how to identify one, and the rare errors that could turn an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. Before we dive in, here's a question for you. Have you ever found a penny that looked unusual? Maybe a strange color, an off-center strike, or something that just didn't seem right? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. At first glance, the 1966 Lincoln penny doesn't seem extraordinary. It was struck in huge numbers, and like other pennies from the era, it's made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, what makes this penny truly valuable is its rarity in top condition and the unusual minting errors that occurred during production. One key thing to note, just like the 1967 penny, the 1966 Lincoln cent has no mint mark. That's because during this time, the U.S. Mint temporarily stopped using mint marks to discourage coin hoarding. But while the lack of a mint mark might make all 1966 pennies look the same, trust me, not all of them are equal in value. So, why is the 1966 penny so valuable? The first factor is condition. Most pennies from this year have been in circulation for decades, meaning they've seen heavy wear. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is incredibly rare. Collectors are always on the lookout for high-grade examples with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of damage. But condition isn't the only thing that makes these pennies valuable. Some have extremely rare errors that send their prices skyrocketing. How do you spot a valuable 1966 penny? First, take a close look at the overall condition. If you find a penny with strong details in Lincoln's hair, a sharp date, and a clear wheat stalk on the reverse, you may have something special. But beyond condition, errors are where the real value lies. One of the most sought-after errors on a 1966 penny is the doubled die variety. This happens when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between impressions, causing the lettering, date, or Lincoln's portrait to appear doubled. If you find a 1966 penny with clear doubling, especially on Liberty or In God We Trust, it could be worth a significant amount. Another valuable error to watch for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin isn't properly aligned in the press, leaving part of the design missing or shifted to one side. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the penny. Then, there's the broad strike error. These happen when a coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to expand outward and appear wider than usual. Broad strike pennies from 1966 are rare and can fetch a high price, especially in good condition. One of the most fascinating errors is the clipped planchet. This occurs when part of the metal blank is mistakenly cut off before striking, leaving a missing crescent-shaped section on the penny. These errors are rare and sought after by collectors, especially when they're dramatic and well-defined. Now, the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much can a rare 1966 penny be worth? Depending on its condition and the type of error, some of these pennies have sold for between $5,800 and $65,000, and even more in some cases. Imagine finding a simple penny that's worth more than a new car, or even a down payment on a house. So, before you spend that old penny, take a closer look. You never know, you might just be holding on to a fortune without even realizing it. And don't forget to share your coin discoveries in the comments. Have you ever found an old penny that made you wonder if it was valuable? Let me know, and happy coin hunting! Number 4. The 1980 Lincoln penny, just another old cent, right? Not so fast. Hidden among the millions of pennies struck that year are a few rare and valuable coins that collectors are willing to pay thousands of dollars for. Some of these pennies have unique features, while others contain mint errors that make them extremely rare. Could one of these rare pennies be hiding in your pocket change or an old jar of coins? Let's dive deep into the 1980 penny, what makes it valuable, and how you can spot one worth a fortune. Before we begin, here's a question for you. Have you ever found a penny that looked unusual? Maybe it had a strange mark, an off-center design, or something that just didn't seem right? Share your finds in the comments below. I always love hearing about rare coin discoveries. The 1980 Lincoln penny was struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small D mint mark just below the date. This penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which means it has a higher copper content than pennies minted after 1982. Because of this, some collectors even save pre-1982 pennies for their copper value alone. However, the real value of the 1980 penny comes from its rarity in high grades and from certain mint errors that make some of these coins highly collectible. So, why is the 1980 penny valuable? The first factor is condition. Most pennies from this era have been in circulation for over 40 years, meaning they have scratches, wear, and discoloration. Finding a 1980 penny in pristine, uncirculated condition is rare, and these high-grade examples can fetch premium prices at auctions. The second factor is mint errors. Some 1980 pennies were struck with major errors that make them extremely desirable to collectors, turning a simple penny into a coin worth thousands of dollars. How do you spot a valuable 1980 penny? First, check the overall condition. If the penny has sharp details, a bright copper shine, and no visible signs of wear, you could have a high-grade coin. Next, examine the mint mark and lettering closely. This is where you might find valuable errors. One of the most valuable errors on a 1980D penny is the doubled die obverse. This happens when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly, creating a doubling effect on the design. If you notice clear doubling on Lincoln's face, the date, or the words, Liberty, and In God We Trust, your penny could be extremely valuable. Another rare error is the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank coin isn't perfectly aligned in the coin press, causing the design to be shifted. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable the penny, especially if the date is still fully visible. Then there's the broad strike error, where the retaining collar fails to hold the coin properly during striking. This results in a penny that appears wider and flatter than usual, with no raised rim. These errors are highly collectible, especially in good condition. One of the most dramatic errors you might find is the clipped planchet. This happens when the blank metal strip used to cut pennies has an overlapping cut, resulting in a crescent-shaped missing section on the coin. A clipped planchet error on a 1980D penny can make it significantly more valuable, particularly if the clip is large and well-defined. Now, let's talk about what everyone wants to know. How much is a rare 1980D penny worth? If you're lucky enough to find one of these era pennies or a high-grade specimen, its value can range between $2,800 and $47,000, and in some cases, even more. Imagine finding a penny that could be worth more than a brand new car. So, before you toss that 1980D penny aside, take a closer look. You never know, you could be holding onto a small fortune without even realizing it. And don't forget to share your coin discoveries in the comments. Have you ever found a penny that made you wonder if it was rare? Let me know, and happy hunting! Number 5. The 1960 Lincoln penny. Just an ordinary coin, right? Think again. Some of these pennies have sold for jaw-dropping amounts, and you might just have one hiding in your collection. With rare varieties, striking errors, and some of the most sought-after features in coin collecting, the 1960 penny is one you don't want to overlook. Today, we're breaking down why this penny is so valuable, how to spot a rare one, and what errors to look for that could turn a simple cent into a collector's dream. But before we get started, here's a question for you. Have you ever come across a penny that looked a little different? Maybe a strange marking, an odd color, or a misaligned design? Let me know in the comments. You never know, you might have a hidden treasure in your pocket change. The 1960 Lincoln penny was minted in two locations: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced pennies without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which used the D mint mark. This penny was made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it that classic reddish-brown appearance. But what makes the 1960 penny so fascinating is the existence of two distinct date varieties: the small date and the large date. So, why is the 1960 penny valuable? It all comes down to rarity and demand. The small date variety, especially in high-grade condition, is one of the most sought-after Lincoln cents from the era. Many collectors are on the hunt for this specific variety, particularly the 1960D small date penny, which is far rarer than the large date version. How do you spot a rare 1960 penny? The key difference between the small date and large date lies in the shape and positioning of the numbers. On a small date penny, the 6 and 0 are closer together, with the top of the 6 sitting nearly level with the 1 in 1960. On the large date, the numbers are spaced further apart, and the 6 appears taller. If you find a small date penny in pristine condition, especially one with a D mint mark, you could be looking at a coin worth a significant amount. Now, let's talk about errors, because this is where things get really exciting. Some 1960 pennies have dramatic minting mistakes that make them even more valuable. One of the most famous is the 1960 D over D repunched mint mark. This occurs when the D mint mark was stamped twice, slightly offset, creating a doubling effect. If you spot a D that looks thicker or shows clear doubling, you might have a highly valuable penny. Another incredible variety is the 1960 double die obverse, where the date and lettering appear double due to a misalignment during the minting process. If 1960 Liberty or In God We Trust show clear doubling, your penny could be worth a small fortune. Off-center strikes are also popular among collectors. If you find a 1960 penny where the design is noticeably shifted, leaving part of the coin blank, it could be extremely valuable, especially if the date is still visible. Broad strikes are another error to watch for. These occur when a penny is struck without the retaining collar, causing the coin to expand outward and lose its raised rim. A broad strike 1960 penny in excellent condition could bring in serious money. One of the rarest errors is the clipped planchet, where part of the metal blank was cut off before the coin was struck. If you have a 1960 penny with a clean, curved missing section, it could be worth a premium. Now, for the big question, how much can a rare 1960 penny be worth? Depending on its condition, rarity, and error type, some of these pennies have sold for between $16,200 and $73,000, and in rare cases, even more. Imagine finding a single penny that could be worth more than a brand new luxury car. So, before you spend that old penny, take a closer look. You never know, you might be holding onto a small fortune. And don't forget to share your coin discoveries in the comments. Have you ever found an unusual penny that made you wonder if it was rare? Let me know, and as always, happy hunting! Number 6. The 1981 D Lincoln Penny, just another common cent, or a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered? While millions of these pennies were struck at the Denver Mint, only a select few hold extreme value due to rare errors and pristine condition. Some collectors have paid incredible amounts for these elusive coins, and if you know what to look for, you might just have one in your pocket change. Before we dive into the details, here's a question for you. Have you ever found a penny that looked different from the rest? Maybe a strange color, a misaligned design, or something that caught your eye? Let me know in the comments, because some of these small details could mean big money. The 1981 D penny was produced at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small D mint mark below the date. These pennies were made from 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, making them heavier and more valuable in metal content than later pennies. This was actually the last full year that pennies were made primarily of copper before the U.S. Mint transitioned to a zinc core in 1982. But what really makes some of these 1981 D pennies valuable is their condition, unique varieties, and mint errors that collectors are willing to pay thousands for. So, why is the 1981 D penny valuable? The first key factor is condition. Most pennies from this era have been in circulation for over 40 years, meaning they have scratches, discoloration, and general wear. Finding a 1981 D penny in pristine, uncirculated condition is incredibly rare. High-grade specimens, especially those graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services, can command huge prices at auction. The second factor that makes these pennies valuable is rare mint errors. These errors happen during the striking process and can turn an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. How can you spot a valuable 1981 D penny? First, check its overall condition. A bright, red-colored penny with sharp details and no visible wear is much more desirable than one that's dull or heavily circulated. Next, closely inspect the mint mark, lettering, and Lincoln's portrait. This is where some of the most valuable errors can be found. One of the most exciting errors on a 1981 D penny is the doubled die obverse. This happens when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly, causing a doubling effect on the design. If you notice clear doubling on Lincoln's face, the date, or the words, Liberty, and In God We Trust, your penny could be extremely valuable. Another rare error is the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank coin isn't perfectly aligned in the press, causing the design to be shifted. If the strike is significantly off-center but the date is still visible, it can increase the penny's value dramatically. The broad strike error is another one to watch for. This happens when the collar that normally holds the penny's shape during minting fails, resulting in a slightly larger, flatter coin with no raised rim. A broad strike 1981 D penny in excellent condition can be worth a considerable amount. Then there's the clipped planchet error, where part of the penny's edge is missing due to an irregular cut during the minting process. A clean, well-defined clip can make your penny much more valuable, especially if it's in good condition. If you're lucky, you might even come across a double-struck penny, where the coin was struck twice, causing overlapping images. These are among the rarest and most eye-catching errors, often fetching impressive prices at auction. Now, let's talk about what everyone wants to know. How much can a rare 1981 penny be worth? If you find one of these rare varieties or a high-grade specimen, its value can range between $5,200 and $45,000, and in rare cases, even more. Imagine finding a penny that could be worth more than a luxury watch or even a car. So, before you overlook that old penny in your change jar, take a closer look. You might just be holding onto a small fortune without even realizing it. And don't forget to share your coin discoveries in the comments. Have you ever found a penny that made you wonder if it was rare? Let me know, and as always, happy hunting!